before I start, I know our seniors are involved in lots of different things here at Grace First Baptist Church, but I've been asked to speak with them this morning, and so I'm going to ask wherever they are, if they could come back to the second row so I can look at them and speak to them this morning. And let me just say a quick thank you to Pastor Ford and to Sister Hall and to all those who are involved in the scholarship ministry. I will tell you, when I got the call, I guess a couple weeks ago, asking me to give the baccalaureate sermon, I didn't quite understand what they meant. But as they explained it to me, I just thought to myself, we got to be one of the coolest churches that I know. I don't know how many churches focus in on our young people and youth as much as we do, and do some of the unique things that we do. When we think about what Brother Bellany does, and Sister Guntz, and Brother Knighton, and all those who are involved in the Sunday school, and when we think about what we're doing here today, I don't know if I've ever been to a church where we have done a baccalaureate sermon, where our sermon is focusing on our seniors. Congratulations to you. So I'm going to ask you all to stand for a moment as we read from Matthew chapter 26. Matthew chapter 26, beginning with verse 36. Matthew chapter 26, beginning with verse 36. It says, Then cometh Jesus with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and saith unto the disciples, Sit ye here, while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, My soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here, and watch with me. And he went a little farther, and fell on his face, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And he cometh unto the disciples, and findeth them asleep. And he saith unto Peter, What, could ye not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. I'll read that one more time. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. We'll keep going. He went away again the second time, and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, thy will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away again, and prayed the third time, saying the same words. And then cometh he to his disciples, and saith unto them, Sleep on now, and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that doth betray me. And my topic this morning is going to be, Yield not to temptation. Don't sleep. Yield not to temptation. Don't sleep. Now I know that the best baccalaureate speeches I've been to have been the shortest ones. So I'm going to work hard this morning to keep this fairly short and fairly focused. And I could do the traditional thing that we do at graduations, and certainly we do want to say congratulations to our seniors. And congratulations to our families and our friends that have supported them all of their lives, to all of our Sunday school teachers, our church, etc. And certainly we want to say that to our seniors this morning. Congratulations to you all and to all those who have supported you. I could also say that we expect great things. And certainly we expect great things from every one of our seniors. You all reflect us. You all are going to be our next generation. And we have prepared you to play that role and to serve that role. And so we say that to our seniors this morning. I could do the traditional thing where I talk about your passion. We want our young people to be passionate about whatever they go into in life. And I encourage you, young people, to go out and find your passion. And it can't be your parents' passion. It can't be somebody else's passion. It's got to be yours. And any adult here will tell you that it is probably one of the worst things to be doing something as your job that you have no passion in. So if you can find what your passion is and focus in on that and make that your livelihood, that is the best thing that can be done. So we can talk about that if we wanted to. We can do the traditional thing and talk about your reputation. And I will tell you, young people, that your reputation is starting right now. And your reputation is in your name. And I've talked about that before, your family name. The fact that you are a Christian and that Christian name means something. And so right now you are starting your reputation. You're telling the world who you are and what you're about. And so reputation is something that will follow you all of your lives. And I will tell you that I've known people with great reputations. And I've known people with very poor reputations. And you all know folks with the same thing. And so you want to make sure that you have good reputations. I can tell you the traditional thing and talk about a multimillionaire who told me, Art, expect to fail. And that was a little bit different because a lot of times we think of the whole notion of expect to succeed. And yes, we want to go out and succeed. And young people, we want you to go out there and succeed and be successes and go out there and accomplish a lot. But at the same time, you're going to fail. And you got to be ready for failure. But this multimillionaire, he told me, Art, I failed at 80% of what I did. He said, I failed at 80% of what I did, but the 20% made me a millionaire. And so women, go out there and try. You may not win every time. You may not succeed every time, but that 20% or that small percentage of success made at least one person a millionaire. Another millionaire, he told me, these are folks right here in San Antonio. He said, Art, don't go out there and make $1 million. He said, Art, go out there and make $1,000 and do that 1,000 times. Go out and make $1,000 and do that 1,000 times. When you think about McDonald's is an international company making billions and billions of dollars selling $5 Happy Meals. And so that's what it takes. It takes little successes here and there, building and building and building, and sooner or later that $5 turns into 10, and that 10 turns into 40, and so on, and eventually that turns into millions and so forth. But don't go out and make $1 million. Go out and make $1,000 and do that 1,000 times. I could do the traditional thing and tell you my own experience that I believe a lot of the education that you'll have will occur outside of the classroom. You'll go back and forth to these classes. Certainly you'll learn a lot. But most of my education happened in the 5 to 7 minutes between classes. Most of my education happened after school. Most of my education happened on the weekends. And those were the times that I was able to hang out with friends, talk to people of different backgrounds and cultures, learn from their experiences of what they've gone through and what their views were and their backgrounds. And all of that education I took to the classroom and made the classroom experience a lot better. So when you think about school, go to school. Learn everything you can. But make sure you don't forget about the education that happens between classes and after classes and on the weekends with friends. I gave a speech last weekend, and I could talk about the traditional things where I talked about folks that had it rough, that were challenged, but eventually made it to the end. I talked about a woman who grew up poor in Mississippi. She talks about her situations where she was raped by folks that were close to her. She eventually got a scholarship and now is one of the richest women in the country. I talked about a young boy who grew up in, I think it was the Dominican Republic. His dad died when he was 6 years old. Every one of the kids had to go out and start making money, and he at 6 years old had to help the family by going out and making money. What did he do? He shined shoes and he cleaned car windows at stoplights. This little guy, he liked baseball, and so he used to play baseball in the streets. He made a glove out of a milk carton. He made a ball out of rolled up socks. He had a bat taken from the branch of a tree. This little guy never saw a real bat until he was 14 years old. And he went on to make lots of money playing sports. I talked about a young man who went to high school in the Bronx. He was a college dropout. Eventually he joined the Army. He went on to clerk at Brooks Brothers and now owns one of the largest companies in the United States of America. I talked about a young boy who got drunk at age 17 in high school. When he got drunk, he led police in Corpus Christi in 1966 on a chase around the city. They chased him all over Corpus Christi. Eventually they caught him, and he was brought before the court. The judge said, "You've got two choices. You can go to military, or you can go to jail." He chose the military. And he eventually fought in Vietnam. He got a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart. I also talked about a young boy whose family included a prostitute, whose family included a man who slept with his daughter, incest, a family whose family included an adulterer. But now today his book is one of the best-selling books in the world. The person that was raped, Oprah Winfrey. The guy that didn't see a bat until he was 14, Sammy Sosa. The college dropout from the Bronx High School who went to the Army, clerked at Brooks Brothers, Ralph Lauren, Polo. The guy who went off and got drunk at 17 in Corpus Christi and led the folks in a chase, whose choices were military or jail. His team is playing tonight in the finals. Peter Holt, the owner of the Spurs. And the man whose family had a prostitute, a person who slept with his daughter, incest, and adulterer, whose book is one of the most famous books in the world, the most read book in the world today, was Jesus. And so I could talk about that and the traditional thing where it doesn't matter where you start. In fact, it doesn't matter where you finish. The topic of my speech last week was connecting the dots. What matters most is the journey in the middle, getting you from one spot to the other. And so I can tell you, young people, don't let the beginning define you. In fact, don't even let the end define you. Let the journey in the middle, the opportunity to connect the dots from the Bronx and a college dropout potentially to one of the most powerful companies in the world. It's the journey that matters. Or I could talk to you about crossroads. That you are at a point in your life where you are at a crossroads. You're leaving mom and dad behind. You're leaving the church, or this church home behind. And you're going off to do new things, different things. We've trained you. We've given you the foundation. We've given you every tool that you need to be able to make it in the world. And now we're saying adios. You're leaving the nest to go out and implement everything that we provided you. And today is your choice. From here, how you decide and what you decide to do is up to you. And you can either do the right thing or the wrong thing. But that choice, that crossroads, is now not mom and dad to worry about. Not grandma and grandpa, not the pastor, not your Sunday school teacher. It's your choice to decide which direction you're going to make. And there's not going to be any parental consequences for that. There might be a lot of consequences. But mom and dad are not there to give you that spanking or to give you whatever discipline that they give you. That choice is yours. So we can talk about all those traditional things this morning, but because of the situation that we're in and the fact that we're here at church, I wanted to focus in on one simple concept, and that is temptation. I want you all young people who are members of Grace First Baptist Church, who are Christians, to think about and make sure that you understand the reality of temptation. Because once you leave these doors, of course, we've all been tempted in lots of different ways. But the temptation will only grow as you leave here today, as you leave your parents' homes. And as I talked about crossroads, you are at that crossroads where you've got to face that temptation. And you'll see lots of different types of temptation. You'll face that temptation every day, right in your face. And it's going to be your choice, your decision as to which way you go. Are you going to go do the right thing or the wrong thing? Now, there's several types of distractions or temptations that you face. The first temptation that you face is the temptation of distraction. When you go to college, and talk to anybody in here who's going to college, there's lots of distractions that are out there. But let me make it plain and clear. You are going to school to go to school. Right. You're not doing anything else when you go to school but to go to school. Now, there's going to be lots of things out there that are going to try to get in your way. But it's going to be up to you to make that choice to not be distracted, to not give in to the temptation of distraction. And when I look at it, there's basically four areas of things that could distract you. One is all the extracurricular activities. I mean, you're going to have the opportunity, and I played football. I played as a fraternity. I was part of student government. There's lots of different activities that you can participate in. And sure, we want you to participate in everything that you want to participate in. Things that will help you develop personally, professionally, and so forth. We want you to do all those things. But don't forget that you are in school to go to school. And I remember I was president of the Black Students Association at my university. And we were, fight the power and protesting and all those kinds of things. And I remember I got a call from my dad. And my dad was very proud of me. But he also was very stern. He said, Art, you're not there to go protest. You're not there to be president of the Black Students Association. You're there to get a degree. And then what he said after that made it even more clear. He said, Art, you're going to be more powerful with a degree than without one. So whatever you want to do, whatever you want to change, whatever impact you want to make, you're going to be much more powerful with a degree than without. So don't forget that you are there to go to school. What's the other types of distraction that you might have? Boys and girls. There's going to be pretty women and pretty men everywhere. And they're going to be after you. And even if they're not after you, you're going to think that they're after you. But beware that those folks are temptation. And they're temptation to distraction. And so you want to remember that what you're there to do in school is to go to school. Now, sure, I had a girlfriend. Other folks, women have boyfriends and so forth. But remember that your priority is school. I remember when Steph and I got engaged. We were still in school. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't get married till after we both graduated. And so it's good to have friends. It's good to have boyfriends and girlfriends. But make sure that your first priority is school. What else? The other distraction is, it's hard. It's tough. And you want to quit. That's going to be a temptation again to distraction. And don't let anybody fool you. College is hard. That's why they call it college. And don't think that high school is so easy and that because it's so easy you're going to be able to just get by in college. That's not the case. High school is high school, college is college, and it's going to be hard. Expect it to be hard. And what that means, if it's hard, you got to put some hard work into it. And if you can't figure it out, there are plenty of resources to go out and figure it out. They'll have folks out there, tutorial classes, people, other students, all those folks can help you. The temptation there will be to give up. And our challenge to you this morning is don't succumb to the temptation. That's a distraction. Don't give up. Figure out how to get it done. And the last thing there is affordability. A lot of folks will say, hey, I can't afford it. And because they'll say they can't afford it, they won't either finish it or try. And what somebody told me was never make money or allow money to be an excuse. And I remember when I went to Harvard, I didn't have a whole lot of money. We grew up in trailer houses. I remember when I was in high school, we had a high school of 500 students in my class. And I did all the honors classes. And I remember every student in my honors classes, and these were kids with parents that made a lot of money, they all had computers. And I didn't have a computer. I had a typewriter. And I remember we had to do a 20-page paper that was about a 6-month process. And I had to literally type out my paper. And when I had to edit the paper, everybody could cut and paste on the computer, make it real easy. I had to literally cut and paste onto another piece of paper to make it work. And then after you cut so many A's and thes and ands and try to switch those around, your paper gets pretty messy. And so during those times, I would have to retype my entire paper every single time. But after growing up in trailer houses and doing all that kind of stuff, I was the only one from my class of 500, 550 people that made it into Harvard University. And then once at Harvard, Harvard's it's a good school. But you got lots of folks that are wealthy. I mean, these are people with their parents are ambassadors and presidents and all that kind of stuff. And so you have this young little boy from Lubbock, Texas, that grew up in trailer houses going up there to compete with those folks. And so I remember going up there and people were being brought up there when the parents came in Lexuses and BMWs and dropping them off and helping them register and all that kind of stuff. My parents couldn't afford that. So they put my stuff in about 14 boxes, mailed it up there. I took my only plane up there and had to go find my boxes, take those boxes to my dorm room, find out how to register, figure out Boston, figure out Cambridge, all by myself. But I made it work. And to this day, I've got a Harvard degree. Now, my parents did send me on a plane up there, but most of the time we couldn't afford a plane trip. I had to take Greyhound back and forth if I wanted to go home. If you've ever been on Greyhound is a 2-day trip. From Boston, Massachusetts to Lubbock, Texas. And you stop in every little podunk town there is. Greyhound is a hard ride. But we did what it took in order to make it. And I remember one particular year for Christmas, we couldn't afford a Greyhound ticket. My brother went to West Point up in New York, and so neither one of us could go home. And so we decided that he would come to Cambridge to stay in my dorm room over the Christmas break so that we could spend Christmas together. And if you know anything about Boston, and Paige, you're going to find out, Boston is cold. And it's cold in the winter. And me and my brother were in my dorm room for 2 to 3 weeks. And if you know anything about college campuses, during the breaks, they turn off the heat and air conditioning. And so my brother and I ate ramen noodle soup, stayed in my dorm, and watched the smoke from the coal blowing out of our mouths. But we did it. And to this day, he and I both, he's got a West Point degree and I've got a Harvard degree. And that's something you can't take away from us. And if you go to my office today, you won't see a degree on the wall. You won't see a bar license, a law license on the wall. I got my law license and my degrees all wrapped up in the same thing I got them in storage. And my philosophy behind that is a little piece of paper on the wall does not tell anything about me. What tells me, if you want to know about me, you got to know about the journey that took to get that piece of paper. So those are distractions. Affordability. It's hard. Boyfriends and girlfriends. All these extracurricular activities. These are all distractions, temptations of distractions. So what I'm saying to you all today, don't succumb to those sorts of temptation. The other temptation that you'll face is giving less than your best. The other temptation you'll face is settling. Not giving your all. Not giving your full potential. And I'll say this right now to you. If you could have made an A, but made a B, you're not living up to your full potential. If you could have made a B, but you made a C, you're not living up to your full potential. If you could have made a C, but made a D, or could have made a D, but made an F, you're succumbing to the temptation of not living up to your best. And my challenge to you this morning is, don't succumb to the temptation of mediocrity. Don't succumb to the temptation of settling. And I don't care if it's your grades, if it's your jobs that you seek, if it's running for office, on campus or off campus, aim for the best. Give your best and be your best. And the other temptation that you face is a violation of your values. It's turning away from God. As I mentioned before, there's going to be lots of temptation around you. And most of that temptation is not godly. There are folks, people, and things which will daily seek to turn you away from your values, that will seek to turn you away from God. And I think Sister Bianca's right. If you focus in on God, make God first, make Him your priority, make Him your foundation, everything will be fine. And so you'll be constantly faced with that choice, that crossroads. Are you going to follow God or follow the world? You'll see that probably every day on college campuses. And that's going to be your choice of which way you head. As I mentioned, I play this. I'm an alpha. And anybody that's going to play it, go alpha. I play football. And so every day, 4 hours a day, I was out training. And so I did a lot of things that were worldly, that caught a lot of attention. But I always made sure that people knew where I stood. When I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha, and I heard all the reputation that fraternities have and so forth, I let them know up front that I don't do 3 things. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't have sex with women. And they knew that up front, and people all through my college career respected where I stood. And so as long as you let people know up front where you stand, you'll be fine. And the part of that is also watching your friends. If you want to stay close to God, if you want to make sure that you hold on to your values, find other people that also believe in God and have the same values. A lot of who you are, and one of the things that will best reflect you and shape you, is who you choose as your friends. If you look at anybody in prison, if you look at anybody who is struggling in a relationship, most oftentimes you will find that they struggled because they had bad friends. They made bad choices of friends. Be sure that you choose and surround yourself by people that believe in what you believe and value what you value. And the last thing there, what I used to always do, and somebody told me they did this, and so I copied them. I made sure that I wrote my parents once a week, and I wrote them on a church bulletin. That did a couple things. It forced me to go to church. I wrote my parents a note, and then my parents knew that I was going to church. And that little thing alone will carry a lot of weight when you go through college. And so those are the temptations that you'll face. And I want you young people, as you go off to college, to realize those temptations. But let me turn really quickly to the Bible, and then we're going to get you out of here. When you look at today's lesson, you've got Jesus who is at Gethsemane. And he is about to be crucified. So this is one of the biggest moments in Jesus' life. It's one of the biggest moments in Christianity. And so Jesus is struggling with the fact that he's about to be crucified. And he had just talked to Peter, and to let him know that, after the third crow, he will have denied him 3 times. And so that's where Jesus is. He's gone to Gethsemane to pray and to see if God will allow this cup to pass from him. And the Bible says he fell on his face. He wept. He was torn apart. He was crying. And so that this is an important, pivotal moment for Jesus and all of Christianity. Now, he brought 3 people with him. He brought James and John and Peter. And he had one task for them. Their only task was to stay awake. Keep watch. Don't sleep. Again, we're at the most pivotal moment in Jesus' life and in Christianity. And you got 3 disciples that their only job was to not sleep, to stay awake. And so if you look at verse 41, and I find this really interesting. I know that these verses are talked about in lots of different ways, but not everybody always talks about the concept of temptation here. But it says, watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so what is the temptation that we're talking about here? The temptation that we're talking about here, which is pretty interesting, is falling asleep. That's a natural thing. Everybody, when we get a little tired, we're going to fall asleep. And so normally when we talk about temptations, we talk about friends, we talk about drugs, we talk about women and men and all this other kind of stuff. But rarely do we hear temptation associated with falling asleep. And so what's the big deal? Why is the whole notion of temptation, falling asleep as temptation, a big deal? Well, the concept is simple. Falling asleep is something that we do naturally. But you know what? Sin is something that we do naturally. And so sin and giving in to sin, it means that we're giving in to temptation. And here, the disciples had one job. Their one job was to stay awake. So when they were giving in to sleep, when they fell asleep, they were giving in to a natural thing. And so what the Bible is saying here, what Jesus is saying here, when he says watch and pray, that ye enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He's saying, if you're going to follow me, you're going to have to fight against things that oftentimes seem natural. That good-looking boy over there, that good-looking girl, going after them, forgetting about your studies and what you're here for, that's a natural temptation. Following the crowd and being tempted by drugs and alcohol and parties and all that kind of stuff. That's a natural inclination. You got to fight against that. Fight against that temptation if you're going to stay close to God. I did a few parties and I know how to dance and all that kind of stuff, but I always made sure that I had my limitations. That people knew where I stood. That they knew I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, and I didn't have relations outside of marriage. And so we got to be careful of following natural inclinations. All these things are natural. And this simple example a pivotal part of Jesus' life, a pivotal part of Christianity, and Jesus takes the time to talk to disciples and teach them one little lesson. And that is, don't fall asleep. When you do that, you're giving in to the flesh. You may try not to fall asleep. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh, it is weak. And when the disciples fell asleep, they gave in to the world. They gave in to something natural. They gave in to temptation. And when you follow bad friends, when you do what you're not supposed to do, when you're not there for grace, when you're following all these temptations, you're saying, God, I'm not following you. I'm following the natural, fleshly thing. I'm following the weak thing. And I'm not focusing in on what I'm supposed to do. And so that's your challenge this morning. Is yield not to temptation. Whatever that temptation is, extracurricular activities, boys and girls, the college life is hard, you can't afford it, don't fall into any of those temptations. We got resources and people that are pushing you, that will help you, that will keep you straight, but most of all, you've got to keep yourself straight. And so the only thing I'll end this morning and close out with is, yield not to temptation. Don't sleep. Don't sleep. Don't follow the crowd. Don't give up. And don't give in.